Hi guys, welcome back to Glowfully by Alayora. I'm Alex, I'm a holistic healthcare coach and women's wellness coach. I've studied herbalism, holistic health, and women's well-being. And everything I share here is really about helping you understand your body better, to feel more connected to it, and support it in a way that actually works for you, so you can glow naturally and live fully. So, let's get started with today's episode. Okay, so we need to talk about stress, like properly, because I feel like this is one of those things that everyone says that they understand, but no one's actually explaining what's going on in your body in a way that really makes sense. And also, this episode feels quite personal for me. So, over the past few weeks, I've actually been going through quite a high level of stress myself. And I think sometimes there's this assumption that if you work in wellness or you understand your body, you're just fine all the time. And that's really not the case. I could literally feel it building in my body. My anxiety was higher than usual. My mind would not switch off properly. I felt burnt out. My body felt inflamed. And I just did not feel like myself anymore. And that's the thing. It wasn't just one big dramatic thing, it was everything. It was work, mental load, emotional stuff, just the pace of life. It all stacked up. And then everything that had been building just hit a point where it all just kind of snowballed. And my body was like, nope, we have had enough. And I feel like that moment that it was like, okay, I can't keep doing this like this is something so many women have experienced but don't always have the language for. We talk about stress like it's just one big thing, like you're either stressed or you're not. But what most women are actually dealing with isn't just stress, it's accumulation. It's your body carrying more than it can comfortably regulate over time. And even though I knew what was happening, I still had to actually stop. Like, properly take a step back, take some time off, reduce the load, calm my nervous system, bring inflammation down, and just kind of come back to myself a bit. And that really reminded me of something that I think is so important. This isn't about knowing what to do, it's about what your body is holding because your body will keep adapting and adapting and adapting until it gets to a point where it's like, I can't do this anymore. And that's when things just start to feel off. Not broken or dramatic, but just not right. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today in this episode. So, I want to get into what stress actually is in the body, not just mentally, how it builds up over time without you even realizing, why it starts showing up in your digestion, your hormones, your skin, your energy, why so many women feel off instead of obviously unwell, and then what you can actually start doing to support your body in a way that actually works. So, this isn't about extremes or pressures. It's not fixing your life overnight energy, but it is understanding what's happening and then working with your body instead of constantly pushing against it. So, if you've been feeling a little bit all over the place lately, or like you're just not quite yourself, I promise you this is not random and this might help. But before we get into everything, I do want to say this quickly. Everything I talk about in this episode is here to guide you and help you understand your body better, but it is not a replacement for personalized medical advice. If you have any ongoing symptoms or concerns, it's always really important to speak to a qualified healthcare professional. And the same goes for anything like herbs or supplements. If you are thinking of using them, especially if you have any conditions or you're on any kind of medication, make sure you check in with a healthcare professional first. So, with that, let's start with part one, when your body says enough. Okay, so let's actually break this down properly because I think one of the biggest reasons women feel confused in their bodies is that stress is explained in such a surface level way. Like it's just a feeling. Like, I feel stressed. I've had a stressful week. But what's actually happening in your body is so much deeper than that. Stress is not just in your head, it is a whole body response. Your nervous system shifts, your hormones change, your immune system adjusts, your energy gets redirected, all based on what your body thinks is going on. And here's the part that really changes how you see everything. Your body doesn't separate stress. It doesn't go, oh, this is just work stress. We can handle that differently. Or this is just emotional stress. That's fine. Your body sees it all as just input. So let's make this real, okay? You've had a bad night's sleep. You wake up already a bit tired. You rush your breakfast or skip it. You've got things on your mind. You're replying to messages, emails, thinking about what you need to do. Nothing dramatic has happened, but your body is already processing all of that. And then you add work pressure, emotional stuff, overthinking, not really switching off in the evening. And that is where it starts to build. And this is what people aren't explaining. There is actually a term for this, and it's called the allostatic load. And don't let that word put you off because it is actually really simple. It just means the total amount of stress your body has been carrying over time. So, not just one moment, everything. All the little things, all the ongoing pressure, all the things you've been pushing through. And I think this is why so many women end up in the space of feeling like, I don't even know why I'm feeling like this. Because it's not just one thing. It's the build up. And for me, it was a build up of so many things, and then just one thing tipped it over the edge, and that's where it started snowballing. And I was like, "Oh, so it was that one thing." And then I was like, "No, Alex, come on, let's have a look at this properly." And I started to realize that it had taken all these little things to get to that point of snowballing. So then I want to talk about the I'm fine, but I'm not fine stage. And this stage, I think you'll recognize if you've been there. So you're still doing everything. You're still going to work, still seeing people, still keeping up with your life. And from the outside, everything looks normal. But inside, it feels a little different. You're more tired than usual, but sleep isn't fully fixing it. You feel more reactive, like things get to you quicker, and your capacity feels lower. Even small things feel like a bit more effort than they used to be. And that's such a weird place to be in because you're like, I should be fine, but I don't quite feel fine. And this is the point where people usually push harder. You try to be more productive, more disciplined, get more on top of things. You might think, I just need to sort myself out. I just need to get back into a routine. I'll just buy a new planner and write it all down and fix things. And I get it because I've done the exact same thing. But what's actually happening here isn't that you need to push more, it's that your body has been adapting for too long without enough support. And it's starting to reach its limit. It's not a breaking point, but it's a capacity limit. And there's such an important distinction because your body isn't failing you, it's literally trying to communicate with you. So, this is where I want you to slightly change how you think about this. Instead of asking, what is wrong with me? Start asking, what has my body been carrying lately? Because that question immediately softens everything. Now it's not about fixing yourself, it is about understanding your load. So, what do you actually do with that? And I'm not going to give you a massive list here because that would just add more pressure. We're starting small. You just begin to notice, where am I constantly on? Where am I not getting enough recovery? Where am I pushing through when I probably need support instead? And even just that awareness is powerful because when you see your load clearly, you can start to reduce it, not all at once, but gradually. So if you've been feeling like this lately, more tired, more reactive, not quite yourself, I really want you to understand that this is not just random things you are feeling. And it's not a sign that you're not coping well enough. It is your body responding to accumulation. And once you see that, you stop fighting yourself and you can start supporting yourself. So, next up, we're going to get into one of the first places this actually shows up in the body. And this is where most people get confused because it's your digestion. So, part two, the gut brain axis. Why stress shows up in your digestion. Okay, let's talk about your gut because this is usually one of the first places your body starts showing you that something is off. And I know you'll have experienced this at some point. You know, when you've got something stressful coming up, maybe a meeting, an event, a conversation you're a bit anxious about, and suddenly your stomach just feels weird, like tight, a bit nauseous. Maybe you don't feel like eating, or you feel like you need the toilet out of nowhere. That's not random. That's not your stomach just being annoying. That is your nervous system talking to your gut in real time. Your gut and brain are literally connected. So, your gut and brain are constantly communicating with each other through something called the gut brain axis. And I don't want this to sound complicated because it's actually really simple when you think about it. It's basically a two-way conversation. Your brain sends signals to your gut, and your gut sends signals back to your brain. And that's happening through your nervous system, hormones, and immune signals all the time. So when your stress levels change, your digestion often changes with it. Now, a big part of this is something called the vagus nerve. Don't worry about the name, just think of it like this. It's one of the main ways your brain and body stay connected, and it plays a big role in digestion. When your body feels safe and regulated, the vagus nerve helps switch on your rest and digest state. So, in that state, blood flow goes to your gut. Your body produces digestive enzymes, and food gets broken down properly. Everything works how it's supposed to. But when you are stressed, your body shifts out of that state. It moves into more of a survival mode. And in that state, your digestion is not the priority. So your body literally changes how your gut functions. It can slow digestion down, reduce enzyme production, and change how quickly things move through your gut. Not because something's wrong, but because your body is trying to deal with what it thinks is more important. And at that point, you're in almost a fight or flight stage. So your body's like, okay, we don't need to deal with digestion right now. We need to deal with this giant tiger running towards us, even if it is just a work email. So this is why your symptoms may feel so random. This is the part that confuses most people. You might notice that you're bloated one day but fine the next. Your appetite disappears when you're stressed, or you feel hungrier than usual. Your digestion just feels unpredictable. And it's easy to think, what did I eat? Why is my gut like this? And of course, if you are having ongoing problems, it is definitely worth getting things checked because it could be an intolerance. But a lot of the time, the missing piece is your nervous system. Because if your body doesn't feel safe enough to prioritize digestion, it doesn't matter how perfect your diet is. Let's say you've had a really busy week. You're thinking about lots of things, you haven't fully switched off, You're maybe eating a bit more rushed than usual. You go out for dinner, eat something you'd normally be completely fine with, and suddenly you feel bloated. And you're like, why has this upset my stomach? Ugh. But it's not just the food, it's the state your body is in while you are eating it and trying to digest it. So, from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective, this is often linked to the spleen and stomach systems. And these systems are particularly affected by overthinking, worry, and mental load. So, if you've ever noticed that your digestion feels worse when your mind is busy, that is not a coincidence. That is a pattern that has been recognized for a very, very long time. So, what actually helps? And this is where we gently shift into support because the instinct is usually to try and fix your digestion directly. Cut foods out, control everything, figure out exactly what's wrong. But if stress is part of the driver, that approach can actually make things feel more intense. So instead, we think about supporting your body in a calmer way. And that might look like slowing down slightly when you eat, even just taking a few breaths before meals, not eating every meal in a rushed, distracted state. So, when you eat more regularly, your body isn't constantly trying to play catch up. It's not perfect, but it's just more than before. And then we have herbal support. And herbs can be really supportive here, but not as quick fixes. Herbs like ginger, peppermint, and chamomile have traditionally been used to support the digestive system. It's not a way of forcing your body to do something, it is supportive. They support digestive signaling. And over time, they help your body move towards a more regulated state. And that's the key. We are not trying to override your body, we are trying to support it. You cannot rush to a regulated nervous system. You have to take the time to nurture it and bring it back to where it should be. So, if your digestion has felt off lately, I really want you to consider that it might not just be about what you are eating. It might be about what your body is experiencing, your stress levels, your nervous system, your overall load. And when you start looking at it like that, everything softens a bit. There's less control and there's more support. So, next, we're going to talk about something that I think is even more subtle. And that's the feeling of not being ill, but also not feeling like yourself, and what's actually going on in the body when that happens. So, part three, inflammation, hormones, and fatigue. Why you feel off. So, let's talk about that feeling because I know you know exactly what I mean when I say this. You're not ill, but you don't feel right either. Like something just feels a little bit off. Your energy isn't stable, your mood feels different, your body feels more reactive than usual. Maybe your skin's breaking out more, maybe your cycle feels a bit different, maybe you feel tired, but also kind of weird at the same time. And part of me wants to blame Mercury retrograde, but there's also other things going on here that we can take a look at. It is such a weird space to be in because you're like, I should be fine, but I don't feel fine. And because nothing is obviously wrong, it's really easy to ignore it and just push through. But this is actually one of the most important stages to understand because this is often how chronic stress shows up in the body. It's not dramatic, it's very subtle. So let's talk about what is actually happening. When your body is under stress, it releases cortisol. And I want to say this properly because cortisol gets such a bad reputation, but cortisol is not the problem. It's actually there to help you. It helps regulate your energy, your blood sugar, your ability to respond to things. It's a really important hormone. But the key thing is Cortisol works best in rhythm. It is designed to rise and fall throughout the day. So, normally, it's higher in the morning to help you wake up and then gradually lowers as the day goes on. But when stress becomes more constant, that rhythm starts to change. Cortisol can stay elevated for longer or just become a bit all over the place. And when that happens, it starts to affect other systems in your body. This is where inflammation comes in. So, one of the main things that cortisol influences is inflammation. And again, inflammation isn't a bad thing on its own, it's part of how the body protects and repairs. But when stress is ongoing, inflammatory signaling can increase slightly. Not in a way where you suddenly feel really ill, but enough that your body feels different. So you might feel more sensitive, more reactive, a bit more uncomfortable in your body. And for me, I actually ended up experiencing this showing up on my body in different ways. And it was kind of scary because it had got to a point where I could not keep pretending it wasn't happening. But often it starts at a low level and builds. And if you pay attention to it in the beginning and start recognizing it and doing what you can to support yourself, you can reduce the chances of it building to a point where it is so in your face and you're like, okay, I need to stop now. So it is very important to pay attention to it when you feel a bit more sensitive and a bit more reactive. And then this is where hormones get involved too. So your body is always prioritizing. When it perceives that you are under ongoing stress, it shifts its focus. And this is where your hormones can start to feel different. You may notice your cycle isn't as predictable, your PMS feels more intense, you feel more emotional before your period, or ovulation feels different or harder to even notice. And it's not that your body is messing up. It is that it is adapting. It is trying to work with the state that you are in. And I think that's really something that, is really lovely for our body. When you shift to a perspective of gratitude, it's like my body is trying so hard right now. I just need to give it a little bit of a break so that it can come back to a state of rest and calm. Because all it is trying to do is adapt and adapt and adapt to try and meet it where you are pushing it. And then we have the skin and the immune system. And this is where it shows up physically. So you might also notice that it shows up on your skin. You get more breakouts, more sensitivity, things take longer to heal. And that links back to both inflammation and hormone shifts. Your immune system can feel this too. So you might feel like you get more run down easily, or that your body just doesn't bounce back as quickly as it used to. And again, it's not necessarily anything extreme in the beginning, but it's definitely not how you normally feel. And again, it progresses and progresses and progresses. So it's paying attention to these early signs so that you can start to show up for yourself. And this is where I think so many women get stuck because this stage doesn't look serious enough to do anything about. You're still functioning, you're still doing everything. You think, I'm fine, I'm just pushing through. But this is actually the stage where your body is asking for support the most because this is early dysregulation. It's not illness, but it's not full balance either. So let's say you've been under pressure for a while, work's busy, you've got a lot on your mind, your sleep isn't great, and you're eating a bit all over the place, but you're still managing everything. And then you start to notice you feel more anxious than usual. Your energy dips more. Your skin starts breaking out. Your period feels heavier or more emotional. And you're just like, why is everything just a bit off? That's this. That's your body saying, I've been adapting, but I need more support now. So, what actually helps here? And again, we'll keep this really grounded. We don't jump into doing everything perfectly. We just start supporting the system earlier. And that might look like creating a bit more consistency in your day, prioritizing sleep where you can. I mean, your body will ask for sleep, give it rest. Eating more regularly. If that's not perfect, that's okay, but just regular meals. And reducing pressure where possible. Not because these are healthy habits, but because they directly affect your physiology. They help to bring cortisol back into rhythm. They reduce inflammatory load and they support hormonal stability. So, if you've been feeling like this lately, not ill, but not yourself, I really want you to take that seriously, not in a scary way, but in a supportive way, because this is your body giving you early signals. And this is a stage where small changes actually make the biggest difference. So, next, we're going to talk about something that honestly changes how you will see all of this. Because a lot of this isn't just about you, it is about the environment you're trying to function in. So, part four, it's not just you, how modern life keeps your system overloaded. Okay, so now we need to talk about something that I think changes everything once you actually see it. Because up until now, we've been talking about what's happening in your body, but there is another layer to this, and that is your environment. And I feel like this is the part where so many women are being way too hard on themselves. Like, why can't I just handle things better? Why do I feel so overwhelmed all the time? Why can't I switch off properly? And it's like, because you're not actually being given the conditions to switch off. Let's be real for a second. Think about your day. You wake up and your phone is there straight away. Messages, notifications, emails, things you need to reply to. Your brain is already on before you've even properly woken up. Then you go into your day. You're thinking about work. You're thinking about what you need to do. You're replying to people. You're managing conversations. You're holding things in your head. You're planning what are you going to have for dinner? If you have a family, you're thinking about how to deal with them and what needs to be done. And, if you're caring for multiple people in a household, that is a lot of weight on your shoulders. And then, even when you are resting, are you actually resting? Or are you scrolling, watching something, replying to messages, thinking about what you should be doing? Because there is a difference and your body knows that difference. And I know we all do it. We all scroll and watch something, even if it's mindlessly just watching something on Netflix. But your brain isn't having the downtime that it really needs to rest. So then I want to talk about emotional load, and this is a big one. This is the layer that I think gets overlooked so much, and that is emotional labor. Thinking about other people, remembering things for them, managing how people feel, holding space in relationships. You're not just living your life, you're holding a lot of other people's experiences as well. And that takes so much energy, even if you don't consciously realize it. And that goes for relationships, whether they're romantic or family, children. If you're a carer, you're caring for your parents or siblings or whatever. And then if you're not in a dynamic where you are being met with the same emotional labor and it is very one sided, that drains the life out of you. So it is so important that you look at that included in the pressure that can be building. Because I didn't realize I was taking on so much emotional labor recently. And it was only when I took a step back and I looked at it and I was like, wow, this has just drained the life out of me. And that's one of the reasons that my nervous system was in fight or flight all the time. It's why I my immune system was kaput, and I had to take time off doing everything to just rest and come back to look after myself. Because a lot of the time when you're doing emotional labor for other people, you aren't doing the emotional labor for yourself. You are putting yourself on the back burner, and that is so unhealthy for you. The next pressure that I want to talk about is one that you don't even notice. It's the quieter pressure. It's the stuff that sits in the background, feeling like you should be doing more, comparing yourself to what you see online, trying to stay on top of everything. And it's not always loud, but it is consistent. And again, your body feels that. You're scrolling on Instagram, TikTok, whatever, and you see these people living certain lives, and you're like, wow, that looks so good. But what you don't realize is necessarily even happening is you are telling your brain, like, we're not there, we need to be there. Or so I scroll and I see people and I'm like, wow, I wish that I was doing that right now. Or I wish I was there at that phase in my life. And my body recognizes that and it becomes a quiet underlying pressure that builds and builds and builds. And again, it's not always loud, but it is consistent and your body feels it. So then when you put all of that together, the constant stimulation, the emotional load, the ongoing pressure, your nervous system doesn't really get a break. It's just moving from one thing to the next. And that's why so many women say things like, I can't relax properly. My mind won't switch off. I feel tired, but still very wired. And that's because your system hasn't had enough time in a state of actual safety. And one thing I actually did find was really good and helpful was practicing gratitude and doing affirmations. And I know sometimes you hear that and you're like, oh, that's so silly. But actually, it's not. It's teaching your body and your mind that you are safe at this point, that you are safe in your life, that you are grateful for your life, that you are grateful for your body taking care of you. And, you know, when you hear those every day, instead of it being constant, you need to do this, you need to do that, we need to be here, instead of it being an aggressive kind of commentary in your head, it's more of a, I'm grateful for where I am and I am safe where I am, and I am safe to explore new things, and I'm safe. And, that as well helps the body learn that there is a space of actual safety just within you. Sorry, I got a little bit off topic there, but I just felt like I should add that in. Now, I do want to talk about traditional Chinese medicine again, and I'm going to keep it simple because this is where I love to bring that in. It explains a state of actual safety in such a clear way. And this is the kind of lifestyle pattern is that's often described as liver qi stagnation, which can feel like frustration, irritability, feeling emotionally stuck. And then you have heart overstimulation, which can feel like anxiety, restlessness, and difficulty settling. And when you hear that, it's like, oh yeah, that describes modern life pretty well. And a lot of people feel that. They feel frustration and irritability, and they feel anxiety and restlessness because of all of these inputs that they are feeling. And it's not like it comes out of nowhere. There are these things that build up and build up and build up until it gets to too much. So, this is what I want you to take from this part. And it's that you are not bad at coping. You are trying to regulate your nervous system in an environment that rarely allows it. And that's a completely different perspective because now it's not what is wrong with me, it's what am I constantly being exposed to? And that's what I was saying about affirmations and why they're really good is because you expose yourself to a different input. So, what else actually helps? And again, we're not going to go for extremes. We're not removing your life. We're just creating small pockets of less. So, less input, less noise, and less constant switching. And that might look like not going on your phone first thing, taking a few minutes in the day without any input, going for a walk without listening to anything, or eating without multitasking. And if you're somebody who doesn't really like to have no input, I know some people like to have background noise, then change it up. Let it be some nice affirmations in your day. So, even just one or two of these things are great because to your nervous system, that's a signal that's like, okay, we can come down a little bit. And then I want to talk about emotional boundaries. So, not taking on everything, not feeling responsible for everything, not carrying things that aren't yours. And I know it's easier said than done, but even just becoming aware of it changes things. So, if you've been feeling overwhelmed or constantly on, or like you can't fully relax, I really want you to stop and look at your environment, not to judge it, but to understand it. Because once you see how much your body is actually processing, it makes so much more sense why you feel the way you do. So, now that we've talked about what's happening in your body and what's happening around you, the last thing that we need to talk about is how you actually start supporting a system that already feels like this in a realistic way and a way that actually works. So, part five, supporting a dysregulated system gently, realistically, and over time. So, the real question is, what do you actually do with this? And I want to start by saying this because it is really important. If your body already feels overwhelmed, the answer is not to suddenly do everything at once and everything perfectly. It's not to wake up tomorrow and to try and fix your life because that energy, that I need to sort everything out energy, that is still pressure. And pressure is part of what your body is already struggling with. So instead, we're going to shift this. You are not trying to fix yourself. You are supporting your body back into a state where it can regulate again. So instead of thinking, I need to get my life together, I want you to start asking, what would make my body feel a little bit safer today? Because everything we're about to talk about, that's what it's doing. It's signaling safety to your system. So, why does rhythm matter? And this is deeper than it sounds. Your body is constantly trying to predict what's coming next. That's how it regulates your nervous system, your hormones, and your energy. And when things are unpredictable, your body stays more alert, it stays more on. But when things are more rhythmic, even slightly, your body starts to settle. So when you eat at similar times, sleep at similar times, have small predictable moments in the day, you're not just being healthy, you're telling your nervous system you're safe. You don't need to stay switched on all the time. And that helps bring cortisol back into a more natural rhythm. Now, off the back of this, I do want to say that it kind of goes as well with negative experiences. So when you are constantly predicting a negative outcome because you've only ever had negative experiences, your body remembers that, it stores that, it goes, okay, well, last time this didn't go well, it's not going to go well again. And it's hard, but you need to try to show your nervous system and your body and your mind that it's not always going to be a negative outcome. You need to teach your nervous system that good things can happen. So create good things, create good outcomes. And you will eventually show your nervous system and your body and your mind that, okay, things are safe. It's not always going to be bad. And that has been one of the main things that has really helped my anxiety is putting myself in a situation. So seeing friends and knowing, I'm in a safe space, I'm seeing friends and it's a positive outcome. And then I'm like, okay, well, that went well. Maybe we can try doing this next time. And it's relearning and re showing yourself that not everything is going to have a scary outcome. Not everything is going to be a negative outcome. And that just as well is something that comes off the back of routines and rhythm where you are regulating your nervous systems, your hormone, and your energy. And that just helps to bring you back into a safe space. Then we have blood sugar, and this one is a big one, and no one explains it properly. So, when you're not eating regularly or your meals are very unbalanced, your blood sugar goes up and down more. And every drop in blood sugar is a stress signal to your body. So, your body then releases more cortisol to bring it back up, which means even if nothing else changes in your life, your body still feels more stressed internally. So, this is why things like skipping meals, running on caffeine, and not eating enough can make you feel more anxious, more tired, and more reactive. So, when you start eating more regularly and including things like protein, fats, and carbohydrates, you're stabilizing your blood sugar. And when your blood sugar is more stable, your nervous system feels more stable too. And then we have warmth. And this is where traditional medicine makes so much sense. When your body is in a stressed or depleted state, it often becomes more contracted. It becomes more tense, and circulation can be affected. And that's where digestion can feel weaker. So, from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective, warmth supports digestion, circulation, and energy flow. And in modern terms, warmth helps your body shift out of that tense, contracted state. So things like warm meals, warm drinks, or even just slowing down while you eat help your body feel more supported. And this as well, when you have your time of the month, you're on your period, and everything feels contracted and tense, your uterus, the lining, just you get pain, warmth. Warmth helps so much. That's why they say use a hot water bottle or a heat pack, and it helps everything move from that tense, contracted state to being a bit more relaxed. And that's basically the same with your body. If you are tense and in a contracted state, that warmth just helps you relax and feel more supported. So, then why reducing input is so powerful? Your brain is processing information constantly. Every notification, every scroll, every piece of content, and your nervous system has to respond to all of that. So, when you never have moments of nothing, your system never fully settles. Even a few minutes of reduced input, so no phone, no noise, no stimulation, gives your nervous system a break. And that break is what allows your body to calm down. Now, we spoke about this before, but I would like to cover it again: emotional boundaries. If you're constantly thinking about other people, holding space, managing emotions, feeling responsible for everything, that's load. Your body processes that the same way it processes physical stress. So when you start to pause before responding, not take everything on immediately, recognize what's yours and what isn't, you're reducing that internal load, which directly affects your nervous system. And I think that is one of the biggest ones. So it is very important. Then we have herbal support, and herbs can support this very well, but not in a take this and fix everything kind of a way, but more like a they support your body in moving towards regulation kind of way. So herbs like lemon balm are calming and support your nervous system. Linden supports tension and supports relaxation. Oat straw, deeply nourishing and supports long term resilience. And rose is emotionally supportive and softens the system. They don't override your body, they work with it. And for me personally, I love a peppermint tea every day, which helps to support bloating and inflammation. And I found over time, they help create that sense of safety that your system needs. Now, this is also where having supportive tools can really help. Because when you're in this state, it's not just about knowing what to do, it's about actually having something to guide you through it. And this is exactly why I created my journals and planners. So, things like the Calm Journal are designed to help you slow your thoughts down, regulate your nervous system, and actually create those moments of stillness in your day. Because when your mind is constantly racing, your body stays active. And even just getting things out of your head and onto paper can start to calm that response. So, the gratitude journal and personal growth planner also support this in a slightly different way. They help create structure, reflection, and a sense of grounding, but not in a be productive way, but in a come back to yourself kind of a way. Because when your life feels chaotic, having small anchors like that can make a huge difference. And this is what I want for Aleora. This is what I always wanted Aleora to be. It's not just information, but it's actual support. So you can find all of those on our Etsy page, and all of our links are bio.byaleora.com. And you can find our Etsy page at Aleora by Aleora, and hopefully you will find them very supportive. So, what this actually looks like in real life. Instead of thinking you need to change everything, I want you to think, what's one thing I can do today that supports my body? Maybe you eat a proper meal. Maybe you sit in silence for 5 minutes. Maybe you write things down instead of holding them in your head. Maybe you go to bed slightly earlier. And that's enough. Because when your system is overwhelmed, small, consistent signals of safety are what bring it back. So if you've been feeling overwhelmed, tired, reactive, not quite yourself, I really want you to take the pressure off. You don't need to force your way out of this. You support your way through it. Your body is not broken, it is just carrying a lot. And when you start reducing that load and supporting your system in the right ways, your body responds, not instantly, but steadily. And that's what actually lasts. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there for today. If this episode felt like it clicked something for you or you recognized yourself in any of it, just take one small thing from it. You don't need to do everything, just start where you are. And if you want to go back over this in your own time, there is a blog version of this episode where everything is written out for you. And you can also go back through previous episodes of Glowfully for more ongoing support around this as well. If you want a bit more consistent support, you can subscribe for free on Substack. I share weekly emails, blog posts, and content there. And if you want something deeper, there are different tiers where you can join and you'll get extra support, bonus content, and downloadable resources to help you actually implement everything we have talked about. You can also find my journals and digital products on Etsy, which are designed to support you in this and in real practical ways. And I also share content like this across my socials, broken down into daily posts throughout the week, so you can come back to it in smaller pieces. Everything is linked in one place at bio.byaleora.com, which is also in the description, so you can find whatever feels right for you. And if you know someone who's been feeling like this too, send this to them. Because a lot of women are sitting in this space without really understanding what's going on in their body. Anyway, for now, glow naturally and live fully, and I will see you in the next episode.